word that reflects how you will even make the expenses, how you will even expand your office, having won that contract. And that contract will become yours. Develop conviction. Commit to principles and values and declare the values openly. Let people know that you're a person of principle, a person of values. You know, discipline is something that is very important because you don't want to compromise. You don't want to do certain things that will short circuit your purpose. You can imagine a situation where in 5 years they say, oh yeah, we know this person that can deliver. And they identify you to come and deliver on this particular thing because they know you're capable of doing it. And in the process, they discovered that there was something indiscipline made you maybe illicit use of substances or something. And you cannot be allowed to go on to that particular position. So discipline is very important, right? A leader coordinates resources and manage priorities. They don't manage urgent stuff. They deal in priorities. What is most important is actually every day they reprioritize. And what is most important is what they dish out. They deal with it. They empower others. This is something important. Most of the time, we feel that if we empower people that we're leading, they will leave us. I was in an inauguration at a particular time. We're heavily empowered that we're moving. And, we approached one of our directors and said, yes, you are my ambassadors wherever you move. Yes, we build your capacity here to represent us wherever you go to. He was seeing things differently from how others were seeing it. Empower people. Let them be your ambassador wherever they are. And always, always mentor your successor. It's very important. And now let me start winding down by this story of sheep among wolves. You notice in the Bible, he said, I am sending you as sheep among wolves. Go with no sandals. Go with nothing in your pocket. Go with nothing. But he still expected them back, untouched. So what does it mean? When you are out there, you're exposed to more opportunities for failure. Failure stare you in the face, but you have to overcome. That's exactly what he meant. You have to overcome. Your greatest enemy in that particular place is your lack of discipline. Remember, there were a lot of things he did. Do not this, do not do this, right? If you're disciplined and remain on those things that make a leader out there, despite the challenges that stare you, despite the failures that stare you in the face, you remain on course. What this means again is that we have to guide ourselves against situations that may derail us. My dream for every leader is you become devoid of addictions, devoid of unsolicited pleasures, because these are the things that take us outside the realm of the leader we've been called to do. And then another thing, is that we have to be cut out. We have to cut out and wear the armor of faith. Faith in yourself, faith in your vision. Even when it appears as if things are falling apart, obviously it will have to fall apart at a particular time. You have to remember that there is a vision you have your eyes on. Things don't need to be perfect. You may not even know the process through to that vision, but having the clearer picture of that end is what keeps you on the track. Following every day, monitoring every day, tracking just to make sure that your direction is in alignment to that particular vision. That is what the leader does. He puts all those resources together to achieve that. And lastly, remember that leadership is all about thought processing. Remember what I said earlier when I began? I said one is about who we are, then the second one is how do we manifest the mentality. Leadership is all about our thought processes and processing. You must have to check how the thought processes are as well as the thought processing, okay? Remember the story I told you about the centurion when he said, go, let it be done for you as you have believed. That is how that word was spoken. So it's all about believing in yourself, having that conviction, telling yourself that we can do this. Once you're able to convince yourself and believe in yourself, that has a way of transcending to your followers. And they will have, and before you know it, you've created a cohort of people that have the mandate to change the world. So is it in you? It is in you. Go forth and let it be to you as you have believed. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Doug. Great presentation. I decided to cut you some slack and add some, because it was very interesting and engaging. And I believe that our listeners appreciate what they've heard so far. Thank you very much. I believe that we will take reactions at the end. At this juncture, I'd like to move to Antonio Bago, our other panelist, to give us his reaction to the presentation briefly, and then speak briefly on how leadership is at the center of the work that our mentees are expected to do as MSMEs, especially in the digital world. So Tony, can we hear from you, please?
Okay, good day. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Tony.
Okay, what an interesting expose by Dr. Chid. You've actually laid the foundation for the conversation to move forth. And I just want to interject with my own mindset, my own thought, in the plethora of all the points that he has laid out, which are actually the facts as it is. No, by extension, leadership to me is about responsibility. And that responsibility, just like he explained along the lines, is driven by an idea, is driven by a vision, and that vision has to be clear cut. You know, it's an idea that has been well thought out. You know, processes have been determined on how to actualize them. It's actually a responsibility, you know, to drive a set of people towards their goals. You know, in fact, in the process of leading, your followers may see the need, you know, to change course and follow in the path that you have charted, because they've seen that it is well cut out. The concept behind the process is well planned and all that. So to me, leadership is process driven, and the leader leads the path, you know, towards actualization of goals that has been set. Also, followers, you know, the followership process is also a leadership position, because it takes a lot of, trust in yourself, you know, to trust in another person to lead you in a path that is uncharted for you. So when I had the topic leading in the digital economy, what it connoted to be was that, look, what has been the leadership style in the traditional narrative? And now that we are in the digital space, what is expected of whoever is driving the process? What should we see, you know, as a strategy, as a process for us to follow? And to me, idea rules everything. If an idea is not well tested, and by testing, it means it has been thrown to a lot of minds, you know, to think around it, to critic, you know, then bring out this fine, you know, and final thought process that the people will follow. And it's process driven. It has to have target set, which also, you know, try to brings about creativity, because leading in the digital space, you know, the traditional way you've been doing things, you need to look at what you've been doing. What are the processes that I've been doing? Can I translate this into the digital space? And that is the conversation we are planning to have today. How can we transform the economy as it is today? You know, the economy as we know it in the traditional times. How can we translate in the face of post-COVID-19? How can we begin to rethink the processes that we have become accustomed to? How can we revalidate, you know, why we must continue with the traditional methods versus why we should go with the digital economy, the digital space? If you continue with the traditional, definitely you'll be left behind. An example for this leadership in the digital world is this. Dubai came from a seed idea. Somebody sat down and said, look, this is what I think Dubai should become. And it then started with a team of idealists, and they had to come up with what Dubai is today. All of us are seeing what Dubai has become. And it is a beautiful thing to see how ideas transform to a wonderful destination space where everybody desires to go, where everybody wants to, we desire Nigeria to be like Dubai. So I want to quickly, also leave this behind. With leadership, expectation, it's a must. We must expect to see where we are headed. We must expect to see a change from where we came from. So I just want to speak rhetorically before we start breaking it down to what we expect our champions, to see, how we want them to begin to lead in the space we want to drive them toward. Before now, you have been bothering yourself about how you transport your goods from one space to the other. You've been thinking about how you can be able to reach out to more markets, beyond your immediate environment. Today, post-COVID, you can see that there are strategies of reaching out to even people beyond the shores, beyond the continent. And that is what we expect our champions to take home from this bootcamp. We want to give you the strategies that are workable, that have been tested, that are trusted. We want to give you the conviction to dare, to attempt to go beyond the confines of your comfort zone. So this is what today's conversation will center on. And I'm so excited to be part of a panel that will help drive home the thought behind all the ideas that we're going to share today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Didn't expect anything less from Anthony. Hands on. I always use my proverbs. So Tony, I'm coming to you with my proverbs again today. You working, I believe, 8 to 5, or is it for the entrepreneurship space, and your passion is in digital. My people will say that when a woman marries 2 husbands, she knows the one that's better for her. Now, I'm not saying anyone should marry 2 husbands, but just a proverb, and we need to study it. Meaning that you stand astride the job space, and you're also doing a few things on the entrepreneurship platform. So thank you for the thoughts you shared. I like especially what you said about strategy. Someone said that nobody wins a war by the size of their army, but by the strength of their strategies. It's all about strategy, and there's nothing sentimental about strategy. And I like the way Dr. Chidi broke it down. He brought it very close home to everyone. It's about strategy. When you made that phone call to that company, the company is serving you. So they are bringing their A game to get your heart before they ask for your hand. When they get your heart, they can ask for the check, which is your hand. They can ask for your hand, which is transferring the money to them. But they will do everything possible to render good service to retain you as a customer. So it's all about retention, customer retention, and it comes down to how you bring your A game to the table. So I thank you 2 gentlemen for an excellent work you've done. And if you permit me, I'd like us to move to our brother, Obi Awuno, who always brings his A game to the table. Obi, you're on. Obi Awuno, can you hear us? His mic is, Jude, can you check his
yes,
mic?
Sorry. My mic was muted. Yes. So yes, thank you for that, Obinaya. Yeah, I was saying that I was saying, Dr. Chidi, that was a great presentation, and Tony, as eloquent as ever. Yeah, so thank you to both of you. Now, with this topic, with capping on a bit of what Tony has said and Dr. Chidi has said, well, we are with the traditional leadership. A few years back, it was all about a memo coming from the CEO, and everybody gets to read that memo, and everybody gets their matching orders from that memo. But today in a digital world, it has long changed. It was usually about going it alone and trying to stifle your competitors' ability to grow. But today, you have more to gain from collaborating with people, collaborating with that logistics firm or that broadband company, and so on. A lot of these decisions in the old world were based on intuition. The structure was hierarchical. Changes were slow, CEOs were hardly changed, market cycles were like 5 to 10 years, but that was then. Today is the digital world. With digital leadership, it is like this strategic use of a company's digital assets to achieve business goals. You can deal with this both organizationally or at an individual level. And as an effective leader, you will have to be aware of your business goals. You would have to know how and what your job responsibility is and how to support it. Now, digitally, we're talking about robotics, driverless cars, 3D printing, automation. In a digital world, decisions are taken based on data. And most of these things are based on data. We now live in a data-driven world. So all this is based on data, called from data-driven models and charts. Leadership in a digital world these days, we're looking at anything from 6 to 18 months, leadership changes. Market cycles are shorter, 5 to 10 months. To lead in a digital world, you have to come to the realization that you need to change, and agility is key. Be swift to assimilate and digest new technologies, change direction quickly, be savvy enough to drag everyone in your company with you. But of course, you also have to understand what you're doing first, understand your environment, understand what's trending. Einstein once said that if you cannot explain something to a 6-year-old, you do not understand that thing. So to lead in a digital world, there are a few things you have to do. Dr. Chidi mentioned a lot of them. But again, you have to be an adept listener. You have to be good at analyzing and filtering data coming in. Sometimes you're at your desk and the inflow of emails and calls are just relentless. They just keep coming. But you have to organize your thoughts. You have to do a bit of mind mapping. Be quick, be agile. Be extremely good at using those sources of information to also disseminate information to other people effectively. Be extremely good at engaging your patrons and your benefactors, because there's so much competition in the market these days. In the digital world these days, if you cannot keep the attention of your benefactors and your patrons, you will lose them because there's too much competition. You have to promote culture and experimentation in your firm. Or if you're just starting something, you have to have that mindset. Be willing to experiment. Be willing to experiment, because if you're not, you'll miss opportunities. When you experiment, of course, now and again you will fail, but of course you would learn from that. So having said that, your role as a leader in today's digital world, I'm speaking to the people participating in this. Your role as a digital leader in today's digital world is to create a high-performance environment where success is inevitable. Everyone has peak performance potential. All your workers, they have peak performance potential in them. It is your job to find it and bring it to the fore. You're managing the performance of others. High competence, high commitment should be your goal. First is the realization that you need to change and be open to the rapidly changing world we live in now. Be self-aware, know where you are, because you cannot decide where you're going to unless you know where you are. Then you have to develop your digital skill sets, imbibing a digital mindset. You wouldn't really see this, but humility is key. You have to be open to learn, because when people join you every day, they bring on board new skill sets, new ways of doing things. Don't just reject them. You have to be humble enough to accept things that can help you. You have to be adaptability. Don't be afraid to change your mind when something else comes, when you get new information. Don't just stick to something because it worked 10 months ago. Well, today it's changed. And if you get that information that something has changed, be adaptable, be quick to change. Like Dr. Chidi said, have a vision. And it's not just having a vision, you have to persuade others to buy into that vision. You have to foster an environment that encourages experimentation. Be engaged. Constantly be in listening mode. Constantly. Because that way you'll get a lot on board. You have to keep educating yourself every single time. The digital world is extremely fluid. It's dynamic. It changes every day. It used to be people going to stores to buy things, and then stores went online, and then people were going to apps to look at the stores and see what the stores have so they can go back to the stores to pick them. You see, that's what the digital world does. It shifts here and again. So if you just put all your things online and you just forgot about it, but other people have moved ahead and started developing apps to tell people what they had in their stores. So you see, you have to be aware. You have to be at the forefront. You have to know what's trending. Not just what's trending, you have to know what's being developed. And so you can make an educated guess about what will trend. And when you do that, you will always be there at the forefront or just ahead of the curve. And you will be able to get maximum benefit from that. Have a high tolerance for ambiguity. Some people, they cannot really function if something might happen here or something might happen there. Well, you just have to keep yourself on your toes. Don't let that distract you too much. Have that high tolerance for ambiguity. Be innovative. There used to be one of the first companies I worked for in England, our outlet stores, they used to have cameras fitted at the door, at the entrance to those stores. And those cameras used to track footfall. So when people are coming into the store, the camera tracks you. And the management got to look at that data to know exactly when to put more staff into their stores. And in so doing, it made a maximum benefit from those periods in the day or those periods in the week where they had more people coming into their stores. You see, tiny things like that. Innovation. Be versatile. Create a culture of sharing. Legacy firms, it used to be about protecting what you're doing, protecting your business. But these days, it's about sharing. You gain more from sharing. Then, having looked at all of this, you have to look at things that would prevent you from getting there. I'll say they're just three very simple things: ego, ignorance, and fear of failure. You have to find a way to get rid of these three things. You have to give them up. Okay, I will stop here for now because I know time has run a bit. So, Obi, now over to you.
Awesome, beautiful. I was going to poke fun at you, Obi. I saw cartoons. Look to your right. I saw cartoons on the screen on your right. Okay, so I sometimes I wonder how cartoons got. No, don't worry. No, put it on. It's helping me. I wonder. I don't know whose idea it was to create a cartoon thing and how it caught on. We all grew up watching cartoons, and I still know some adults who are still watching cartoons. And I can imagine how much income has been grossed by those who created Tom and Jerry, Atom Ant, Scooby-Doo, remember? And then we now have children who talk to you about, I can't even keep up with the names they are calling. So I'm thinking some of our digital champions should consider evolving things that can go viral, things that can be translated into other languages. I joke with my proverbs a lot, but I actually am not joking. I imagine that we watch cartoons and we have girls wanting to be like the Oyibo girls, the boys wanting to be like Ben 10. Someone should consider creating something for Africa. Africa is a huge demographic that we need to look at. And just looking at that, those cartoons playing in the background, some of those animals are nowhere around our environment. Someone should create cartoons with dogs, with Ebinche, that's like the, what's Ebinche, the grass cutter, animals who can relate with over here. So just a brainwave. Dr. Chidi, having said that, we have a few minutes on our platform. Thank you very much, Obi, excellent. Dr. Chidi, I'm coming to you right now, and I want to draw you closer home. Based on the thing I said about leadership, who can actually lead in this area, trying to change the mindset of Africans to think that everything West is the best. Now, post-COVID, most countries are going to think inside the box, not outside the box. What do we have here that we may begin to show leadership in thought leadership, to point our people to things we can do to sustain ourselves? We can no longer be at the mercy of China. We can't be at the mercy of China, you know, the factory of the world. Now we must have to produce within Africa for Africa, by Africa for Africa. So your thoughts are in a few minutes. Dr. Chidi.
Right, thank you so much, Obinaya, for that wonderful question. Essentially, you know, everyone everywhere have that leadership spirit. However, the environment matters a lot, because the environment is actually what provides you with that enabling structure or platform to thrive or not to thrive. So that is actually the difference, right? But the beautiful thing is that in a digital world, there is no border, right? So digital world is borderless. So what it means is, you know, I heard recently that, I mean, I don't know how, I've not read that, but I heard recently that Google said that we can hire you anywhere you're in the world. We don't need to do work permit for you again to move over to US, just work from where you are in the world. So that tells you that they've broken down the borders, right, completely. So the truth is that if the digital world is borderless, what it means is that that environment, you know, that have been broken, you know. So what it means that we have become like butterfly and ready to fly. So the imperative thing is, for us, post-COVID should teach us that we need to do things differently. We need to source for things differently. And like Obi said, collaboration is key. You know, this is not, I was talking with my kids this morning over me, we usually interact and all the rest of them. My little son has an idea of putting some, of publishing. And my daughter was like, you know, the more people that sees this, they will steal his idea. I said, okay, fine. If people take his idea and use that idea to pass, and let's assume he's online and they start liking him, who they refer to, the city will refer to him, that he made them to pass. I said, fine. What will it make him? She said it will make him popular. I said, fine. That popularity, what does it do in a digital world, right? Is a boom. So my point is, we have the resources here, which is the human capital. We have the human capital. And we have the talent as well. We have the time. And the good thing is that the technology has come here. Now, with this borderless world we live in, the only thing we are left with is just to fly and to soar, and then to change our mindset. I remember one of the very first sections of these presentations, someone made a presentation of having that inferiority mindset. You have to let that go, because, you know, a leader is all about, leadership is all about how you think. So once you come up and say, I am not inferior, my product can be equal to yours, we are left to soar. So my point in summary is that, sir, the digital world does not have any border, placing us on the same platform as anyone in any place, any part of the world. We have the resources it takes, which is the talent, the time, and then the mentality. The only thing we need to do is to wash ourselves of that inferiority complex, of that inferiority mentality, and assume the leadership which we are called to be. Thank you.
Wow, bravo, bravo. I like the use of the word, maybe because my background is in English language. I listen to words carefully, and I like semantics. Doctor has used mentality, and if you permit me to also draw from Doctor, I saw that he leveraged a lot from the Holy Book, the Bible, in his references and his analogies. Someone said that as a man thinks in his heart, or as a man thinketh in his heart, or as a person thinks in their heart, so they are. So it's important mindsets. Mindsets are the heart of leadership. If you have a scarcity mindset, then you will hardly collaborate like Obi began to talk about. If you have an abundant mindset, then you will turn your competitors to collaborators, because there's always this thing that only you can do. Like my people will say, as a young wife, you can have as many wrappers as possible, but you can never have as many rags as an old woman, meaning that the old woman has experience, but you can bring your own youthful zest to it as a young wife. So there must always be a way to collaborate, both the young and the old. We're not asking the old to go and die or retire and go and sleep. The experience they have, we can draw from. So we can draw from the analog age, like Dr. Chidi's children began to do this morning. He brought his experience, but they have their youthful zest. And when you match these two, you have better results. So I'm going to go to Tony now. Tony, we're still sharing thoughts with our champions. And as we begin to wind down this panel discussion, because we also have some other thing that will come immediately after it. So I'm getting Jude to be on standby for that. What extra ideas would you want to glean from what our other panelists have said? And what would you want them to pay attention to as they make progress and begin to shine in the digital space in Africa and beyond, in a borderless world? Thank you, sir. Tony.
Okay, thank you, Binaya. I've listened carefully to what other panelists have said so far. So to the champions, I just want to bring to reality, what's actually happening in the digital space. Today, I believe a lot of us have been hearing about robotics. We've been hearing about concepts like machine learning. We've been hearing about artificial intelligence. We've been hearing about deep learning. And now, by extension, I would just like to center and focus on the concept of deep learning. Today, machines are being developed to mimic man, in the sense that it will come with a brain that is empty, that is also tied to, listens to the web, to the internet, to the global internet, but also tries to learn on daily basis our mannerisms, our conversation strategy, the way we move, the way we relate, empathy, and all of that, because it's trying to mimic a typical human being. That is the level the digital space is going to. Now, for people that want to foray into transportation, delivery, and all that, begin to see, the concept of leveraging drones, leveraging robots, to make these deliveries in time and space, where timing is no longer a factor. Maybe you have a product you want to deliver today. A drone can deliver that in the speed of a second, because that enablement has been factored in. Now, let's relate it to what we have in Nigeria, the challenges we have, the barriers we have, limiting us to actually enjoy these things. Now, I know a lot of you are having trouble logging onto this program for long hours. The reason being your data, you are looking at your data, it's fast running out. Now, that is where leadership steps in. What can our leaders do, to bring down the cost of data for businesses to leverage and do their stuff? Today, business is online. It's no longer, moving from point A, transporting from point A. It's all about logging into your phone and transacting. And if you can't stay in that digital platform because data is a factor, the cost is on the high, then it's a problem. So I expect that governments to start regulating the cost of data. Developed countries have already conquered this, where data is nothing. You as you're paying your rent, paying for your gas charges and all that, data is factored in and it's very affordable. We need our leaders, to step into this space. The public sector must drive this space. We must democratize our digitization process. We can't leave the effort only on private sector, because what we've seen is that it is the private sector that has been driving this space. But government needs to step in. What has happened to Nicomsat? Where is our satellite? Who leverages that product? You understand? So these are stuff that government can take leadership in, to make our process very simple. So the truth to the champions now, beyond just having your email, sending an email, or having an app, where you interact with the customers, you need to start thinking beyond just what you are seeing in the now. Start leveraging what is impossible. Look at Tesla is already building a ship to Mars. As unthinkable as it is, this man is moving. He's changing the narrative. So in your business and that stuff that you want to do, what is your barrier and how do you think you can surmount it? I also want to speak to investors, because we're talking about leading in the digital economy. We've spoken in this bootcamp where, a lot has been spoken about business plans and all that. But beyond just business plan, we need investors, to make their investment, patient. There are grants. They should be giving grants that, to support innovations that ordinarily, when you look at it, you might think it might not thrive. But when you support it, when you guide it, it will become a money spinner. So I just want to look at the whole, life cycle of digitization beyond just the inventions that we have today. Ourselves in Nigeria, if our government enables us, we can become creators. We can begin to create the product we consume. Look at our Jokuta steel, what is happening to it? We can begin to create what we consume, because with this digitization, Nigeria is more of consumers. I've seen businesses where they don't believe on homegrown products. You have a software solution you've designed in Nigeria, but because of profit, of interest, they won't support your product until you export it and bring it back. In the boot camp, somebody mentioned, okay, I order for goods and they gave me a bad product. What is wrong with our bad product? It's because we don't believe in the product we are generating, we're creating. That is why we feel that way. But the truth is, most of our products from Aba are actually thriving out there in Malaysia and all the rest. So the truth about digitization is, how can we leverage these products? How can we leverage partnerships? You want to run a business, you don't have that skill. For Christ's sake, you don't need to have that skill. You can leverage the skill of another SME, to push a product. The thing is that you must have your own idea. It must be genuine, it must be different, it must serve a purpose. It must come in to solve a problem. You must have identified the problem that your idea wants to solve, and you move with it. So if you don't have capacity of creating an app, what happens to leveraging an SME that develops apps? Then you move your business beyond the ordinary. So I just want to, encourage the champions. There is nothing that your mind can think that it cannot achieve. I have a friend who is a developer. He says that ideation process is the difficult part. That the thought behind, automating it is the simplest part. So if you articulate your thoughts, you know what you want to achieve. You've seen there's a problem, you have a solution that is viable. Now the only problem is automation. Automation is the simplest part. So spend time in your automation process, develop it, bounce it off other people, harness it, make it a product, then automation will become easier. So I just want to encourage you all, it is not too late, to leverage the digital world. We can achieve more than we have already. Remember, bless you all. Over to you, Benai.
Awesome, Tony. Awesome. Like my people will say, an old woman does not grow old in the dance, she knows how to dance. You've acquitted yourself so well. You have hands-on experience, and you always come to the table with that experience. Now, I'm going to come back to us, the other two panelists, as we begin to tie all of this up. I can see the chat room. You can drop your questions in the chat room. Judy is saying the 3 C's shaping the digital world: creativity, collaboration, and community. I like the community thing. In Africa, no one person trains a child. A child does not belong to one person in the Africa. In Africa, everyone owns the child. Same thing, we work together. We like to work together in Africa. So I'm back to Obi. How can Africa become a leader in the digital economy? And this is for 2 minutes. And after that, I'll move to Dr. Chidi. Obi, how can Africa become a leader in the digital economy? I'm sure you've touched on it one way or another. 2 minutes. You have the floor. Check your mic, Obi. How can Africa?
Sorry about that. Yes, sorry about that. Yes. So thank you for that. Yeah. So how can Africa become a digital leader in the digital economy? Now, we all know Africa is ripe for transformation. It is currently the home to 9 of the world's 15 fastest growing economies. So now Africa has the perfect opportunity to draw level with the rest of the world. And that would take the adequate harnessing of digitization. Africa cannot afford to be left behind again. The world has been severely disrupted by digitization. And where do we want to be when everything settles down? When digital becomes the norm? Where do we want to be? Where would we rather be? Big question. A lot of states in Africa are rentier economies, like people will term them rentier economies, with a varying degree of Dutch disease. Dutch disease comes to play when you have natural resources, exporting natural resources and gaining most of your income from natural resources. And in doing so, you're not dependent on your citizens for taxation and things like that. In economies like that, you'll find out that they do not really rely or they do not really serve for the people. So they call it Dutch disease in rentier economies. So we have to shift from bad governance and we have to change the way we approach it. There are a few things we have to look at: infrastructure, institutions. We have to find a way to educate the masses. Government ventures, very important. But look at where we are today. Take, for instance, in Nigeria. Good luck in trying to convince Buhari or Ganduje in Kano State that AI and automation are the way forward. They will probably tell you to go and buy a digger and go to a farm, or buy a wheelbarrow and sell gal or something, some sort of poverty alleviation thing. So how can Africa become a clear leader, a clear and concise leader? Education, infrastructure, awareness, good governance, reverse brain drain, investments. Anthony was just talking about infrastructure, one of those things, and data. Now, do you know that in India, you can buy with 100 rupees, you can have unlimited data per month with 100 rupees. 100 rupees is equal to like 500 naira. So can you imagine getting unlimited data for 500 naira? I mean, that's what we should be engaging our government. If the government is not going to do it, then yes, like Anthony has said, the private sector should lead that. Well, we seem to be stuck in some sort of quagmire. Nothing is moving forward. If you try to do something, one politician wants you to be bribed, wants to get bribed. There's nobody's making any policy. Before a policy can be pushed through, somebody wants to get bribed. It's also very murky. So let's move to this, look to the private sector to see if this can be pushed through. Richard Branson came from England to collaborate with Nigerian Airways to get the Nigerian Airways off the ground. And he got stuck with Ivorian friends who wanted bribes. The amount of bribe was almost rivaling the amount of money that was going to be invested in that venture. It's stupid. So we have to get past this. We have to find a way to get our leg out of this quagmire. Otherwise, Africa will be stuck. And these are our champions. You guys are the people to make this happen. And again, we have to look at investment. In 2018, China was said to have invested $100 billion in AI. India took that. India also invested, I think, about $1 billion. America invested more than that. You see, they have already identified a direction into the future, and they're investing heavily into it. In Nigeria or in Africa, we are still squabbling. If it's not petroleum, it's diamond. If it's not diamond, it's this. We have to move away from that, and quickly too. Otherwise, we will be left behind again. So the action steps we have to take, we have to articulate our vision. We have to think and act strategically. So I'll stop here for now. Obinaya, thank you.
Wow. Awesome. We have to articulate our vision action steps. I was already typing away and enjoying the session. When you stopped, it's amazing. It's sweet. It's sweet what I'm hearing. And if I invite us all to go to the chat room, I've been able to capture a lot of things, articulate our vision. Let me complete that for the sake of those in the chat room. So if you go to the chat room, you'll see some of the things I captured. Our champions are the ones to make this happen. China, India, USA, and so on have invested heavily in AI. And then I like what you said about what's going on in India. I know the Indian story a bit. Had the privilege of being in Mumbai in 2007/2008. And it's true what you see. A city that does not sleep, you know, constantly. I couldn't see beggars on the streets. Even physically challenged people had something they were doing. And I remember what Mahatma Gandhi said: if you must drive a car, let it be an Indian-made car. If you must watch TV, let it be an Indian-made TV. And today you have the Hindustan, which was the first ever made Indian car. And you have the president, the first ever made Indian TV. What did we do as Nigeria? We began to consume. And I like what COVID has done. I don't like the deaths, but I like that COVID has made all of us see something amazing happened in one of the Southwest states where the SA to the governor died. And I hear the governor said that if only there was no lockdown, he would have been able to fly him out for medical treatment, meaning that some of these leaders still don't get it. Get the health sector fixed. So you don't need to go on medical tourism, sending huge sums to India and across the world. So I like what I hear, but like you said, vision. My people perish for lack of vision. You know, so with this indirectly, I'm coming back to you, Dr. Chidi. My people perish for lack of vision. Without vision, you can do nothing. And like Chinua Achebe said, if you don't know where the rain started beating you, you won't know where it stopped. We need to ask ourselves, what has bribery done to us? I know the story of the Virgin Atlantic issue, Virgin Nigeria, you know, and I know what Richard Branson said about us. Very insulting things he said about us, you know. By now, the Virgin trains would have been riding between Lagos and Abeokuta and Oyo State and the whole of Southwest. By now, we would have had the trains connecting the whole of Nigeria. But now we're spending huge sums, borrowed money from China to build railroads. And it's costing us more than 3 times what it's costing Ethiopia and a few other countries to build a certain length of railway. And we may not, it will not be heard from my mouth that it is corruption, but I'm quoting Obi. So when they come to arrest, they should pick you first. It's Obi that said it, so it's not me. Dr. Chidi, please, can you bail the cat in this matter? How does Africa begin to lead digitally? Thank you, sir.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much. A lot has been said about the corruption that have riddled the economy. In fact, I term, you know, the corruption, I term it as a cancer eating everything up, right? So, and it is quite interesting that in most of African countries, you see that the same thing keep on repeating. Yeah, so I know that there are perpetrators, you know, of this kind of thing within the system, and there are outside. But it takes one within to make that happen. But I think a point is coming, or a point should come, especially for our champion, when we say, these are the set of values I am known for. These are the sets of things I this is the environment. We have to identify our area of influence and say, if this change can start with me at this particular point. And you can imagine when a lot of champions, a lot of young people, because in all honesty, those that will revolutionize Africa will be the young ones. That is just a fact, because they are the ones that have the capacity to change the mindset, that they have the capacity to see into the future. And they are the people that will say, what do I want to leave behind? So if everyone could mind their area of influence or the zone of influence and say, this has to be the core values this zone of influence should be known for, that will have a snowball effect and will spiral across the region we know. So the point I'm trying to make is, I think it has come to that point where we have to rethink a lot of things. What future do we need for ourselves? Let me take you just, I know we're running short of time, but let me take you just a step. If you look at those economies where the countries have provided the basics for their people, they feel highly committed. They feel highly committed to a lot of things because they're not worried about the basics anymore. But look at those societies where the basics are not even there, right? Everybody's struggling to kind of build those basics. And in all honesty, that has a lot of cankerworms associated with it. But the point I'm trying to make is that a time should come when I would draw a line and say, thus far shall you come. So nothing that is in the past should cross beyond this particular point. I think we need the transparency of the digital economy to do that. We need this transparency of the digital world to do that. I think it was Obi that talked about AI investment and all the rest of them. By the time you put in those systems and processes in place, you will notice that the ambiguity that is associated with corruption will be dispelled. People wouldn't want to go into that anymore. So I think with digital transformation, we can say this is my zone of influence and this is a set of values for which it is known for. And when we do that, a lot of people do that, it gains momentum, it becomes fire that cannot be quenched. And that has the capacity and the capability. For Nigeria alone, Ms. Obina, for Nigeria alone, 61% of Nigerians are under the age of 30. That is the youth, that is the youth bulge that has a lot. If you talk to economists, they will tell you how powerful that is. So the point I'm trying to make is a time has come when the champions and the young people should say, it begins now. That transformation begins now. And it begins, let us cash into the transparency that is within the digital world to make that transformation. Thank you so much, sir.
Wow. Amazing statistics there. 61% of Nigerians are below the age of 30, meaning that our most vibrant demography is, we are among the youngest population in the world. So what we do with it is what matters, and it's a two-edged sword. We either use them positively, or we end up with the hush puppies of this world bringing us opprobrium, and then OBs and so on. Yeah, unfortunately, one of them that was caught the last time that already had appeared in the Forbes below 30 chaps. His name is Obi. Obviously not my own Obi. I don't know about Obi Awon, or maybe it's his namesake. I reject that name. I reject it. It's very painful. The last time the FBI investigation was made, you don't want to know the names, and the embarrassment of seeing the UAE police chaps arresting those guys and even sharing the visuals across the world. But the interesting thing is, for every one bad egg, you have over 90% that are doing well. But bad news travels very far. So thank you, Dr. Chidi, for that statistics. You gave us 61% below 30. Now, what we do with them is what matters. But like my people will say, and I'll speak it in Pidgin, they're not a complete rule community. You don't have to wait for everybody to rule. That's why you have traditional prime ministers. our digital champions are the traditional prime ministers in the current world. So we encourage you to please be the traditional prime ministers that will take Africa to the next level of digital leadership in the world. And then we're in a borderless world. So final comments I'll take from our brother, Tony Obago. You have 2 minutes, like everyone else has had. Thank you, Tony.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Tony, go ahead, sir.
Okay, just to say what our government should embrace, we're in the fourth industrial revolution. This revolution is the data age, is the knowledge age, information age. So I think our government needs to break tradition. Governments across Africa need to replace the traditional approaches to delivering citizen-centric goods and services with innovative solutions powered by technology. And by so doing, providing that opportunity and platform for entrepreneurial minds to leverage on to be able to deliver on these solutions. And part of their strategy should also be inclusive. It should be inclusive. It should involve everyone, because there's this growing concern that digital transformation could increase Africa's income gap even further as automated jobs leave the working class unemployed. Because of digitization, a lot of people are afraid. COVID-19 showed a lot of people out of their jobs. So it is important for our government to devise strategies of, making it possible for people or citizens, to begin to upskill, and making that upskilling effort an easier process, more cost-effective and affordable for them. So I think also there should be democratization of information. We're in the data age. Before now, the traditional methods, you have your business secrets and all that, but today we're on the information age. There's no secret anywhere again. Google, a very important friend of mine, Google, I really love Google. Whatever I need, I go to Google, but you must also have the strategy of filtering out, the nonsense, the garbage, and going for the pristine information that you need to drive your business. So government should democratize information. There is that need that there should be information sharing, free flow of information. Government should enable this process as we move towards the digitization. And there has to be a creation of new playing field, because the traditional business world is moving digital. There has to be policies that are more enabling. There shouldn't be stifling of any kind, policies that will want to, discourage entrepreneurs for leveraging strategies that will boost their business. Fintech businesses today, I know CBN have been looking for how they will regulate them, but the fintech world today, they're making a lot of money, and this is a good thing. This is what digitization provides. So government should, make policies that enable these things. And, it will show, it will give entrepreneurs, the mindset of staying back home. Mr. Obiawuna was talking about, bridging the brain drain. If our economy is enabled and our citizens, our minds, our great minds see, okay, it's more fertile back home. The policies are no longer draconian. I think there will be that flurry of let's go get back home. Things are more rosier now. We have electricity. Our public sector has provided all these things to make business more thriving. So we'll see those brain drain remain home, and we'll begin to thrive. Finally, I would like to also re-echo the thoughts of all the panelists, where we say, let us begin to collaborate to innovate. Like I was talking about leverage. Partnerships are what drives business. The only way SMEs can compete with the big guns is by partnership. You look at what you have and what you don't have. You seek out what the other competitor has that both of you can leverage on to drive your business and compete favorably. I think collaboration will become the in thing. But above all that I've said, I think it is the inherent preserve of every entrepreneur to seek, to grow himself, to seek knowledge. Because if you don't go hunting for knowledge, the digital world will leave you behind. If you feel that government can drag you to the water and force you to drink, then you have a problem. entrepreneurs to develop the mindset that, look, on every day, I must feed my mind something new. Every day, there's an information out there that I can leverage to move my business a step further to the global world. I just want to wish our champions the very best. There is nothing, ideas rule the world. Ideate, innovate, implement, and one other skill I need our champions to have is the ability to sell. When you develop your product, the only thing that is left for you to do is to sell. Advertise, advertise, sell, sell, sell. No matter how many no's you get, no failure should defeat your purpose, which is, to get an income, feed your family, and extend to those that have a need for help. Thank you so much.
Wow, awesome. Advertise, sell. I like that part. And like I will always say, Tony, I'm sure I've had cause to say this before. Doing a business without advertising it is like winking at a girl in the dark. Only you know what you're doing. No one else does.
Yeah.
You keep winking until your eyes start paining you. So Tony, I like that. Thank you, Dr. Chidi. I like that smile. Thank you, my brother Obi. I pray that your name will not be associated with evil. I saw a picture of a one-time senator, Senator Dino Melaye, I will call the name here, and he was tweeting and saying, you're not necessarily like your friends. And he was standing beside Hush Puppy, and now he suddenly wants to deny the guy. So be careful the friends you're found with. Show me your friend and I'll tell you who you are. So as much as possible, let us manage all of that. Thank you very much, friends. Okay, at this juncture, Jude had sent you a message. Collins wants to share for a minute. Jude, would you want to unmute Collins Opera for a minute as we wind down this panel discussion? Collins Opera for a minute. Jude, please, can you unmute? Or Collins, if you can unmute yourself, I can give you 1 minute. Collins Opera, can you hear us? Yes, please. Yeah, you have 1.5 minutes. I give you extra time.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I unfortunately I came late, but the conversation that has been going on, I followed it, and I feel that I actually didn't come late. I listened to Obi and also Dr. Chidi, and they made awesome points. I want to take it from where Obi stopped. He said action steps, and that's actually what I want to talk about, just 2 of it. Now, we talked about what the government, we actually expect the government to do. Some time ago, I was with one of the directors of One, and I was asking a question. I said, what will it take for the government to invest in fiber optic laying across the whole nation? Because that is the enabler. It is actually the enabler, because it's also help make the government make so much money, because everybody keys in, all the operators keys into that particular cable laying, and everybody pays, even if it is a pence or even if a kobo to government. It means that over 100 and something people using data are going to be paying some money to government. The government will continue to make money. Just the way we have a .com, we're now having a .ng, and millions of .com registered. But if you go to the .ng, you have only less than 150,000. Government is not making money because people are not even aware that when they do a .ng, they are helping the government as well, and laying all their data within the country and saving it within the country and saving it. That's only one part. So advocacy must be made to ensure, or to see both the state government and the federal government to understand that just laying the fiber optic, even up to the villages, will also be beneficial to them. The next other one I want to talk about is, first, there is a history of, there is technology history, there is development history and all that. Let us even start by copying. Let's even copy. When I mean copy is that, for example, somebody can copy what WhatsApp has done, but build it to meet our local needs. Build it to meet what works for us. Somebody can copy all of that. China has an alternative to WhatsApp, an alternative to Facebook, an alternative to all that. So we can begin to look at that. For example, there are people who are building things that could compete with Paystack, MasterCard, Visa, and all those. Others are building core banking applications that cooperatives and microfinance are using now that will compete very strongly with Finacle and others. So we need to begin to first of all look at, let us copy first. From copying, we will begin to go beyond that, because that is what China did. And that is actually the history. We may not even be able to reinvent the wheel. But by the time we copy and copy, we'll begin to see new things that we need to put, and that's where it is a boom. The world begins to follow us because we have gone beyond just copying than doing. So those are the 2 points, action items, action points I want to drop, so that it goes into the final one is just the education. We are pushing a lot of our people into the university first. The students come out, the next thing they want to become an engineer, a chemist, and all those stuff. But some of them who go out immediately, go to learn a skill, IT skills and others, become the star of the new generation. And the others who have gone to school begin to work for them. So to get us out, we must learn the skills. We'll begin to talk about the certificates that we require. So that's it. That's my short-term contribution there.
Wow, Collins, thank you very much, Collins. And I'm excited that we had the opportunity to hear you. I've also documented some of your thoughts on the chat room. I like the idea of the fiber covering even up to the villages. And I like the fact that someone is an enabler and advocacy who don't know the power of .ng. And that speaks to what one of us said earlier on about the NICOM SAT. Where is it now? Thank you very much. So at this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, two champions, I encourage you to please look at the chat room and make your comments. Permit me to invite at this juncture, I thank my panelists for a great job done. Awesome, 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 awesome. Let's just put our hands together for them wherever we are. Please let's put our hands together for our panelists. Thank you very much. Awesome, awesome interventions. And I like the fact that this is making impact. I've learned a lot today. I've learned a lot. And like my people will say, a traveler is wiser than a gray-haired man. It's obvious that you who have traveled widely in a borderless world. You don't need to fly aeroplane now. Just go on Google. Like Tony's friend, Google. He's the biggest investor in the world. You know, and I like our brother, Dr. Chidi, and his children, No More Borders, and Obi Awono. Awesome interventions you have made today. Thank you very much. So at this point, Jude, Jesse, you have center stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Obinaya. Thank you, distinguished panelists. You've done great justice to this topic, leading in a digital world. Our time is fast spent, but I believe it's been time well spent. Dr. Chi talked about vision. Surely vision is one critical element to leading in the digital world. So the big question continues to be, can Africa actually lead in the digital world? I know one of the panelists also mentioned about believing. Yes, I think I can say emphatically that Africa can indeed lead in the digital world. And that is why this platform has been set up. Our vision is to have an Africa that is digitally enabled. And that is why we are doing this program to empower young Africans, because it's the young Africans that are empowered that will be able to lead us into the digital world. Now, the big question is it possible? Yeah, today might look impossible, but I tell you, most of the visions we celebrate today, at the time the visions came into place, they looked impossible. When somebody dreamt over 30 years ago that a desert could become the Dubai we see today, it looked impossible. So somebody today may believe and say it is impossible that Africa will lead in the digital world. But I believe it is very possible. All it starts is with our mindset. And if we can change our mindset will determine where we will be in the next 10 years. Now, I've spent about 6 years now trying to study the forces that drive digital transformation, trying to study the forces behind the successes in the digital world. And in the few minutes I have, I want to share some with you and why I believe Africa can lead in the digital world. Now, if I may say, at the initial time, it was surprising to me, one of the things shaping and driving digital transformation and driving the digital revolution is more of cultural practices, even more than the specific technologies. I may not be able to go into this, but I'll just give you an assignment. You may do it. Now, if you check the top digital companies in the world, they all have different technologies. Amazon, Uber, Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Facebook, they have different technologies. But check them, you will find out there are some cultural practices that is the same across all of them, or most of them. So that will get you to the fact to believe that some of these cultural practices actually drive digital transformation. And let me tell you why I believe that Africa can lead in the digital world. As we begin to navigate and try to fashion, what are the next steps for this digital camp? What are the next steps for our digital champions? That's where I'm going. But I just want to set the tune. Now, why it is possible for Africa to lead is because some of these cultural threats are native to Africa. They are not foreign. I'll just share one or two or three with you and tell you, I maybe tell you some stories to portray the fact that they are native to Africa. Yes, some of us have gone to Harvard or Oxford or some other Ivy League schools to study them, but they are native to Africa. Now I can use my community, but I found out that it is not just in my community. Some of these practices spread across all of Africa. Just like also, something I mentioned, a child in average African community is seen as the responsibility of the community. In my part of the world, a child is referred to as Nwanyi. What does Nwanyi mean? Nwanyi means our child. In the same way, even a young married woman will be referred to as Nwunye Anyi, that is our wife. Not because anybody has interest in sharing it with the husband. The same way men are seen as Nnanyi, our master or our father. All these things, what I'm projecting is that Africans traditionally believe in community. And community is one of those things that are driving today's digital world. So community and communal life is native to Africa. It is not foreign. Now, let me share another story with you. In my part of the world, if a young man comes of age, he gets into the 8th grade. After some time, he will do what is called Ihebri. It's a ceremony where he gathers friends, colleagues, his age mates for a lavish ceremony. Now, this lavish ceremony, how is it done? The age mates and their wife will contribute food for the big ceremony. So the young man does not spend so much in it. Now, do you know what that is termed in today's digital economy? It is called crowdsourcing. Now, some of us have gone to the West to study crowdsourcing in our digital programs. But I tell you, friends, that crowdsourcing is native Africa. Now, I will also quickly tell you another story. In my part of the world, the first electrification project was not done by government, it was done by community. I was a child, but I can tell you details of it because my father, Nzehira Yoka, Omudowa of Nguru, was at the forefront of it. What happens? The community will gather the resources of the community, their farm produce for a month, and that will be sold, and that was used to put electricity. That is another form of crowdsourcing. So crowdsourcing that we also hear in the digital world today is not foreign to Africa, it is native to Africa. Now, I was telling you about a young man who grows up in Africa, in my part of the world, which also happens across the world. Now, when he does that ceremony that is called Ihebri, where people contribute food. Now, at the end of it, his age mates also contribute yam seedlings for him. Now, that yam seedling, he uses it to grow his business of farming. Now, in today's digital world, that is called crowdfunding. Now, so crowdfunding is not foreign to Africa. It is actually indigenous to Africa. Now, and you also find out that the same also community is traditional and native to Africa. And if I tell you, if you permit me, I'll just give you a little assignment. If you're willing to take the assignment, you can just type yay in the chat space and I give the assignment. Why not ask for the results? Yeah, I see some yays, so I will go ahead. Now, unemployment is one of the biggest problems of Africa today. But I tell you, in the pre-colonial Africa, the assignment is to find out what the unemployment rate was in the pre-colonial Africa. Now, in the pre-colonial Africa, unemployment was at a bare minimum. Why? Because of this community culture we had. Now, I've asked my grandfather before because I was privileged to meet him. Only few people were unemployed in the pre-colonial African community, majorly the sick and the lazy, and there were very few of them. Now, so what do we need to do, friends? We need to go back to the basics. Digital is not foreign to us. Now let me wrap up by sharing another digital trend that is driving today is collaboration. And collaboration is seen majorly in a digital practice which we call platform business model. And I can tell you for free that the top businesses of today are all platform models. They all use platform models. Those include Amazon. Those include Apple. They include Facebook. They include Alphabet, that is Google. They all use platform model. And I also tell you also, friends, that platform model is not foreign to African culture. It is actually traditional. Now, if you check it, you find out that in my part of Africa, we have market days, and they are called a K, Oreo, Afo, and Mpo. We have marketplaces. What is the concept behind the platform model that drives most of the multi-billion and multi-trillion dollar businesses today? It is the platform business model. And I tell you that even before the modern civilization, if I may use that word, that this model has existed in Africa. What was the platform model? Because a platform model like Amazon uses today to be one of the biggest brands in the world, is a marketplace where buyers and sellers meet to exchange value. Friends, let me ask you, if you don't know, just ask your grandfather or your father, if he's old, ask him what is Mpo, what is a K. Those are marketplaces where people come and exchange value. That is platform model. Area in Aba is a platform model. In this part of the world in Africa, you didn't have plazas and shopping malls owned by individuals. You had marketplaces. That is platform model. And it is also on record that the equal apprenticeship system that operates in Itumota is the biggest incubation business system in the world. And that is based on the sharing economies of Africa. Friends, let me wrap up by saying, why am I telling all these stories? I want us to know that the digital culture that is driving today's digital revolution is native to Africa. So what it means is that as Africans, we are better positioned to leverage these digital practices to lead in the digital world. We have to watch this was community. We have to watch collaboration. And we have to watch creativity. So friends and digital champions, as we go into the next week and into the next phase of our bootcamp, we are going to bring people into communities, which we call companies. These are communities to create value. You become valuable by contributing to the pool, contributing your time, contributing your talents, contributing your ideas. We want to nurture ideas. We want to put into practice what we have learned about business ideas, about ideation and the rest of them. Let me tell you, a seed can become a tree, but a tree cannot make a forest. We have brought you here so that Africans can collaborate and be great. One of the things that can help us to become great is when we collaborate. Yeah, we have said it again and again on this platform. There is no basis for competition. The best competition in today's world is collaboration. Let me shock you. Even companies you think that are competing in the digital world, they're actually collaborating. Do you know that Microsoft has huge investment in Apple? For those who do not know, they may think that Apple and Microsoft are competitors. No, they're collaborators. Even when Apple was struggling, Microsoft, that's Bill Gates, invested $150 million in 1997 to revive Apple. That is the spirit that drives the digital economy. And that is how we can lead in the digital economy. And you know the wisdom in that? What it means today is that even if Microsoft crumbles and falls off, which is unlikely, Bill Gates will still be rich because he has millions or billions of investment. That 150 million invested in Apple in 1997 may have gone into billions of dollars today. So they're not competing, they're collaborating. And that's why I want our digital champions, let's change our mindset. Let's find a way to come together. The idea can die inside of you if you don't share with other people. Your strength can die with you if you don't share with other people. You may not also have the idea, but you may know how to bring the idea to life. You may not know how to develop the product, but you may know how to market the product. You may not know how to market the product, but you may know how to galvanize others people together. You see, we may not all have the same abilities, but each ability is important. So as we go into this next phase, friends, let us put our minds together. It is collaborations that will help us. So in wrapping up, once again, so what are our next steps? Our next steps towards making Africa great, towards making Africa lead the digital world, is to form collaborations, is to form communities, communities where we share ideas, communities where we encourage one another. Let me tell you, a candle does not lose its light by lighting another candle. So we are going to find a way of lighting the candle of others. We are going to find a way of encouraging others, helping to build others. See, ideas, what I find out is that don't hold their ideas. I've told people that I don't hold my ideas any longer. Because if you have one idea, the more you share those ideas, the more the ideas are reformed and the more ideas come. So let's come together, let's bring our time, let's bring our energy, and let's actively participate in these communities, in these groups, in these companies. In these companies, each company we are going to form about 10 companies. Each company will be expected to identify a practical problem in the African community today. Each company or group or community will be expected to come up with a unique solution to that problem. And they'll be expected to ideate, brainstorm on it, and come up with a viable solution that can match any business across the world. We have systems and platforms to make these things come into reality, where we see them as very viable businesses. And one thing you need to do is to watch out, ensure you have a unique value proposition. I'm not going to go into deep that. Yesterday on the platform, we tried to see what are unique, how we can come up with unique value propositions. So every community, every group, every company is expected to identify a biting problem in Africa today. And I know all of us agree that there are so many biting problems. There are so many gaps. There are so many challenges. So identify one and then come up with a proposition and then come up with a business idea and a business model to drive it, and then we take it forward from there. Thank you once again, friends. And I want to round up by saying, indeed, Africa can lead the digital world. And indeed, Africa will lead the digital world. Thank you.
Wow, wow, inspiring. Thank you very much, Jude. Africa can lead the digital world. And like it's always said, nature abhors vacuum. I strongly would wish to take responsibility, at least for myself. I don't know who else wants to join this bandwagon, that the reason a lot of our young people are focusing on the negatives digital, getting involved in cyber crimes, is because some of us have not provided the needed leadership. My people will say that the person rejected does not reject themselves. So even if the government has failed to provide that leadership, nothing stops Obi Awono, nothing stops Dr. Chidi Anyanwu, nothing stops Judah Yoka, nothing stops Collins, nothing stops Obi Naya Urapa, and all of us. Nothing stops Chidinma Ekene, nothing stops Nkiru, nothing stops many of us, Nedu, I can say all our names, from taking responsibility. Now, I believe that we have done that, the rest of us, who have done that by what we have begun to do, Cornelia and the rest of us. Let's all join forces, build this community. And I'm going to be very blunt. Please permit me to be this blunt. My people say when you urinate on one spot, it foams. When people work together, it works. You know, and I saw the comments by our brother, Che Ulrika. It says collaboration is a new competition. Awesome. I never even knew that Microsoft invested in Apple. Just hearing it for the first time. Please pardon my lack of knowledge of several of these things. But like Jude said, I mustn't be producing these things. I can sell them for you. So when you finish making it, rest assured that the rest of us will sell it for you. So I have indicated interest in the retail end. Some have indicated interest in digital. Let us work together. So Jude, what I'll suggest is when we go to the chat rooms and the WhatsApp groups, we break ourselves into the different syndicates or what you call companies, and then we begin to work. That having been said, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an awesome evening. And I think we'll begin to wind down at this moment. Let's get ready to receive the recording. And Jude, in the absence of any other thing, do I have your permission to